Welcome to today's overview session. In this session we're going to look at the features and functions of Twinfield. So we're going to start with our desktop, and we have our main blue menu where you have your search criteria. So if you click into the search field and type in data, it will come up with a list of functions which you can choose from. Our next icon along is our progress button, so if you're importing in information, it will spin to let you know that things are still in progress. And if there's anything that needs to happen or to be done in your organisation, you will have a notification with a number beside it listing the amount of companies or things you need to do. You also have the File Manager option, which is the open folder, which you're probably used to in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, exactly the same icon. This is going to allow you to go into this area to upload things like bank statements, upload and import in Excel files, CSV files, for example. And you can also create a new window. So this will duplicate another window for you. So if I click onto it, it will just take you back to the main menu. But this is really handy, so if you need to create something in the background, or if you've got two screens and you need to have a report up as well as a posting screen, you have got that dual capability. You can also just click back to either one of the windows at any time, and it will take you back, Both of those windows are in real time, so if you update something in one window, you can go back into the next window and continue working. So handy if you need to add in another step to your setup. We have our question mark, which is for our knowledge base, and this will allow you to search for reported cases. So if I just type in the word here, matching, then it will just come up with a list of reported articles, and you can also search just specifically for UK-based articles as well. So it uses a ranking system, and it will come up with the likeliest match right at the top there for you. You also have the option to create a case. So in this section we advise that you put a telephone number so they can get back to you, and just put in as much information about the case as you can. The more information you put in, the more quickly you'll get support help. So let's just close out of this window. You have your person icon just on the right hand side, just right next to your login name. If you click on this area, it will show you your user settings, also if you want to go back to the classic version or to log out of the system. And beneath this you have the company which you're actually in. You can click on the portfolio button, so if you have more than one company, you will be directed to search and have a look through the company or select the company you wish to switch to. If we click back onto the home key, then we're just back into the company that we started with. And on our left hand side you can see that when I hover over these icons, it's given me the module names. If you've got a widescreen computer, you might want to leave this expanded, but if you're working off a laptop or a narrow monitor, you could just still have this screen collapse, and you've still got the words, the names of the modules there for you. You can also create tiles and favourites for your desktop. So to do this, we just need to click on the edit button. And once you click on edit, you can click the green button so that you can add in your next favourite. So in the option, I'm just going to type in the word journals, and under journal I can see that I've got journal data entry, but if I want to change the title, I can just type in the word journals and then click save, and that's just badged it with the new name that I've put on. If you need to re-edit, you can click on the pencil, and to delete this icon you can just click on the bin to throw it away. Once you've added all of your tiles, you can click done, and this kind of completes your flow of work. But one of the things that you can do is, if I click edit once more, it might be that you want to add journals to the top of the list, and maybe just add your reports lower down. So you can just shuffle these tiles around and then just put things exactly where you would like them to be. So if I click done, that's going to once again lock those tiles back into place for me. So the first thing we're going to have a look at is our sales area. So under our sales, I can click this new button to create a new sales invoice, but if I want to have a look at my dashboard, I can click on invoices. and under invoices it will give me a list of invoices already created and also some related items. So to create a new invoice, I can click the new button and I can select my supplier from the list. I can change the date by just clicking on the calendar, and once I've changed the date, if I need to add in a reference number, I can add in a reference number in this field if needs be. If I'm adding an item or a description and it's more than one, then I can add in a quantity. So let's just say I'll add in a quantity of 10. And if I just double click into the description, it will bring down some articles for me, which you can create on the fly, or you can choose one from the list. I have the option to send this invoice as a PDF or as an email, or I can print. So I'm going to send this as an email. So once the invoice is sent, you'll get a notification on the top. It will be a little green ribbon and your invoice will be listed under due. If you want to edit the email template, so the email response that your client or your customer is going to receive, you have the option to edit any of the free text below. You can also have a look at your invoice template where you can actually change your invoice numbers, but we do recommend that you do this before you actually start posting your invoices. So where you have the word invoice number, just click and that will just bring up your invoice number format for you, where you can see that I have my prefix with CCY. You can choose to have your year format with 4 digits or 2 digits, and you can use a different separator by just clicking on the drop down. And once you've made all of your changes, you can click Save Format. You can also add a background image, and as long as you change the resolution so it fits to these settings here, you can upload, just say for example, a letterhead, and you can have that as a main page and also subsequent pages. If you just want to add a logo, you can simply just click into this box here and click on Edit Data, and then the pencil will allow you to browse to where your photos are stored. So it will just open up your Explore window for you. So once you've made any changes, you just simply need to click the Save button. And as you can see, you can add in things like your bank details on there as well. So let's look at entering in a sales invoice. So if you want to enter in a manual sales invoice, you have your data entry button below, and that will allow you just to enter in the transaction purely to the financials. Okay, this area will not create an invoice for you. So I'm going to leave the date the same, and this time I'm going to choose my customer by just typing in the name, or you can double click in the field, which will just bring up a list of your customers for you. You can type in the amount and then give your and then just pick up the invoice number from the document. And in the description, you can just add in a description and then add in the income line that this invoice is going to be posted to. So I can pop in the amount of £1,000, and if this invoice is subject to VAT, I can choose the VAT from the list and then work back the gross to net by clicking on the percentage button. And then to post this invoice, so it updates the ledger and also my nominal ledger as well as my sales ledger, I can just click the provisional button and click OK. So let's have a look at purchases. So under purchases, you have the same data entry button which mirrors your sales. But if you're using one of our partner products, Basecone does all of the recognition. It's our scanning provider, and through this module it will allow you to scan and upload your invoices. So I've now just clicked into Basecone, and in my company I have a string of invoices. So I'm going to pick on my invoice for enterprise, which is just down the bottom here. So if I look at my invoice for enterprise, I can see it's been tagged as a purchase invoice and it's already been authorized. So in order for me to just book this invoice into the ledger, as I've selected the invoice, I can click the book button, which is just here. So once I've clicked book, you'll notice that my posting screen now changes over to the right hand side, and I can compare and just make sure what is on my invoice as actually appears on the posting screen. So I can choose my supplier, and once I've chosen my supplier, I can just make sure that everything is okay. And you can see that if there is a duplicate, it already tells you that there is a duplicate transaction. Okay. So I can see that the nominal code that's been chosen is leasing, and this is because the posting rules for this transaction has already been stored. So I want to post this invoice through just so that you can see how the invoice comes through into Twinfield. So I'm just going to alter that number so it doesn't appear as a duplicate. And I'm also going to change the description here as well, just by highlighting the description and then just clicking into the invoice description field. And you can see now those dates have updated, and then I can click this button here to just copy the description down to the ends. Okay, so I'm going to post this invoice to the ledger, so I can click my book button, and that's going to book this transaction straight to the ledger for me. So now if I go back into Twinfield, I can see that this transaction has now come through. So on my home screen I have a button called Provisional Transactions, and this is where all provisional transactions are stored. And if I click into my purchase invoice, I can see that I have a new invoice for Enterprise, and it's the one that I put a 0 at the end. So if I click into the pencil, this will bring up my posting screen. Looks very much like the sales invoice screen that we were in previously, but I've got this added bonus here where I can click on the base cone link. This is going to open up another screen and display that invoice which has been posted, and I can also reveal the timeline, so you can see who tagged it, who booked it, if it's been rejected. You can see it's also been authorized as well. So this is a great kind of tool to use if you've got staff expenses, because you can see that if you set up the authorization process, your expenses can be rejected or it can be authorized, and you can also get reason. You'll also have a reason as well. So let me just close out of that window. And now we're going to have a look at our bank screen. So in our bank window, under cash book and banks, we have bank statements. And in our bank statements, I can see that I've got one of my bank statements here, and I've got quite a few items in suspense. So I can click on the magnifying glass, which basically just gives me a running statement of all the transactions contained within the statement we have uploaded. So I can click on the open items area, and where I have the option and it says file transfer, I can tick the box. And once I highlight file transfer, this is where the learning and recognition starts, and I can click OK. So once I've clicked OK, I know that I need to take this out of suspense, and this time I just want it to go to my electronic payments area. So if I just type in the word electronic, and I can pop that to my electronic area and just click save. So if there are any other transactions on the list, they will automatically be picked up and posted to that area for me. So if I hit the back button, I can now see that I did have 11, and now it's gone down to 6. So you can see where you can actually save time, especially if you have a lot of transfers going in and out of your bank statement. The learning and recognition software just kicks in the background straight away for you. If you want to post this post your bank statement, you can simply click this button and then click post. I've already posted one of my bank statements to the ledger, so if I go back to the home key and once again click on my button for provisional transactions, I can now just click into Barclays, and I can open up the bank statement that I've posted in data entry mode, and this time you can actually see that I have an amount here going to Stars and Stripes, which is a customer. Okay, but this time it's actually gone to here to bank charges. So what I can do is just take that amount out of bank charges as it's provisional, and just pick up my customer, which is Stars and Stripes. Okay, so if there's anything on the ledger for me to match against, I can match it against, but if I just want to leave this £50 on account, then I can just leave this on account, and once I click provisional, that's going to update the ledger for me. Okay, so let's have a look at some of our reports. So under our reports area, we can look at our customer and our supplier reports by just going into this section here, and I can click on customers. I've got an open items area which will give me a list of all of my open items, and if I just click next, it will return my open items for all of my customers. It will give me a breakdown per customer, and also down the bottom give me my control totals, and I get the same type of report for my purchases there as well. You can still go in and drill right the way back to your transaction and view that transaction just in edit mode, so you can see who has actually posted that transaction into the system by just looking at the user. Another report that we can have a look at is our extended trial balance, and under our extended trial balance I can choose to run this for balance sheet and profit and loss by just ticking both buttons, but if I just say next, it's going to run it for the whole of the financial year. I can drill back down into my transactions, and I can also have a look at my motor running costs here as well, or my motor leasing. So if I click the amount and just bring up general ledger transactions, I can see here that all of my transactions contained within this account. I can also just drill back in and just see the actual transaction itself, and I can see this invoice was actually bought through via base cone, and I can click and open up and view the document once more. So even at the nominal ledger stage, you can still drill back and pick up those transactions. Okay, we can also look at spreading transactions through this area as well. So if we have a look at our rent accounts, and I go back to my general ledger transactions, I can see that here I have got a rent invoice under August for £2,260, and I can select the option to spread across periods. Okay, so it may just be that the month that I want to spread it to is for 3 months. So what I want to do is just reverse that whole charge out of month 5, out of August. So I'm just going to push that back to my prepayments area, and under prepayments, once that nominal code has been put in, I can now select the number of periods that I wish to spread this transaction over. So I'm going to opt to spread it over 3 months. So if I now click next, it just gives me a breakdown of my schedule to what the breakdown is going to be each month, and I can press provisional, and that will book that and do the journals for me. And if I now click close, that will just update and refresh my extended trial balance. Another way of looking at your movements per month is by looking at a report which is our general ledger balances per period, and I've just typed that in the search field, so it's a nice quick little shortcut for us to get to. The report is preset to run for the whole of my financial year, just for my profit and loss, and it's looking at the whole number including pence. So if I click next, it will bring up all of those months for me. Okay, and we can also see where we did a spread for our rent. We can see the 753.33 coming through. So this is just a really nice way of being able to see what needs to be done in a particular month. And from this report, the same as the trial balance, you can still drill down, and you still have the option to drill down in the transactions. So I can click into, I can click into any of these transactions. So let's just go back into my computer expenses. So if I just click on general ledger transactions, okay, so this time under general ledger, under my IT purchases, I can choose to repost this transaction. So if I wanted to repost this transaction as a journal, and it could just be that for this transaction I wanted to add in almost like a nominal, either not a nominal code but a cost center against it. So I can see the date of this transaction is the 15th of the 6th, so I just want to make sure that I change that date. Okay, so it's going in and out of the same period. So I can opt to put it back into the same account, but this time I want to say that I want it to go to a cost center. So I've got a cost center here for Chris Connell. So I'm going to use Chris, and then I can go ahead and just put a description to say that this was posted without a cost center. Okay, and then I can now just book this back to the ledger. So that's now been rebooked. There's not going to be any financial change. Okay. However, what we will have is that we'll be able to see, if we run a report by cost center, we would be able to see that transaction. So now let's have a look at our VAT return. So under our VAT return, we can go to an area called online filing. And if there's any VAT returns that have been done but not filed, you can actually go ahead and just remove those VAT returns, and then they become available again for you to create. So to create those returns, I can click on the new button, and if I hit the refresh, it will just tell me that it's been created and what the amount is. I can also just click on the pencil and drill down and see what those transactions that figure is made up of. And if I want to see invoice numbers and the customer or supplier name, I can just select my report from the drop down. So it will give you your control totals down the bottom and the declaration amounts. And you can do exactly the same back again for your purchases as well. Okay, so one of the things you can also do in the VAT area is under your settings, you can create further groups. So if you're working with groups of companies, but you do need to add in, just say groups for things like Spain or Malta, for example, you do have an area called VAT groups. And what we kind of recommend is that you prefix your code that you're going to use with the country code. That way, when you're running reports, you can actually specify from one VAT group to the other. Okay, it makes it a lot more easier there for you. Like we mentioned before, that with Basecone, it's a great area for you to push through expenses. And if you want to use purchase orders, we have another partner product called Purchase Control, and that will allow you to push through any purchase orders, purchase orders into Twinfield. You can also upload information into Twinfield via the folder, and in the folder here you can see that we've got some I've got some import files here, and the import file will allow you to push through anything like names and addresses for your customers and suppliers, journals, expenses if you want to do it through expenses, opening balance journals, purchases, sales type transactions, cash transactions, etc. Okay, so thank you for watching this video, and if you have any questions, please feel free to contact our support department. Thank you. Bye bye.